Tonight we have a forum that should be of interest to all of you. These are ex-students. Not long ago, they were in your place. And since leaving Loyola, they've all blazed their own paths. They are, many of them, most of them, if not all of them, in process right now, solving problems, answering questions, trying to make further progress. I'd like you to help me welcome Alex Grant, Dan Helfers, Monty Goulet, and Mike Willman. So all four of you, rather than have me read your bios, which will start to put everyone to sleep, I'd love it if you would each, just starting with you, Alex, give us some of your background, just what's going on with you now, what your orientation to the business is, how you found your way in, what your path is, and just give us a simple orientation to who you are.
Gotcha. I'm Alex Grant. I graduated in 2008 from music business school. And after college, I moved to Nashville and worked at a few venues there. Wasn't in love with Nashville, and I came back to New Orleans, and I currently work music production for festivals around town. Also do a few other sporting events, not in town, but mainly music production. And
you've got a pretty impressive list of credits. You want to give us an idea of who you've worked with, what you've done, just so not to make everybody feel bad about themselves, but just to show us a little bit of the goodness that you've been up to.
In town, I work Jazz Fest and Essence Fest, Voodoo Fest, Bayou Country Super Fest in Baton Rouge. I have worked Bonnaroo in the past. I work Super Bowl, the U.S. Open in New York, and the Quicksilver Pro surfing competition in New York as well.
Right. So these are all the kinds of things I happen to know. A good number of you are interested in pursuing a similar path. So thank you for that. Mike?
Welcome.
My name is Mike Willman. I graduated in 2009, and before graduating, I guess, as part of my senior project, started a small production company called Chicken and Egg Productions. We eventually got hired to take a bar that had got rid of their entire crowd, was real small, and turn it into a music venue. Some of you might be familiar with Cafe Britannia. I think they call it Britannia Bar now. But I headed up taking that and turning it from just a bar into a music venue. And then moved on from there. The next step in that seemed to be to go a little bigger, so I got a job doing talent buying and management at the Holland Wolf. And then just recently last year, I was tired of making money for other people, so I found an opportunity to make my own money and found a venue on Freret Street that'll be opening in February.
All right. Daniel?
My name's Dan Helfers. I work with Ampersand Events, and we actually work out of the Britannia Movie Theater, so we run that too. Mike and I actually are both from St. Louis. We both graduated in 2009 and went to a high school down the street from each other. So I started booking punk and emo shows when I was in high school, when I was probably like 16 or 17, just really small touring bands. Came down here and continued booking independently at a bunch of different venues. And I guess in late 2000, maybe it was 2009, I guess, I got together with Chris Ringel and Max Braun, who's a booking agent now, doing some electronic stuff in New York, and started Electronic Takeover, which was kind of like the first sort of college electronic dance party, I guess, in the city. And then with that, got involved with Ampersand Events, starting out just doing social media and just running their Facebook and Twitter, and kind of started taking on more responsibilities. So now I do kind of like the mixture of the marketing, booking, street team programming. So kind of a mixed bag.
Great, thank you. And Monty.
Hi, I'm Monty, as Billy just pointed out. So I started as a Bachelor of Music major here at Loyola. I worked on the Vital Sounds recording. I was the president for its creation of the new studio upstairs on the 4th floor, as many of you probably are seeing it now with the SSL board. I was the chief engineer at the radio station, and since graduating, I worked at Nintendo doing Donkey Kong Country Returns audio implementation work. I also got to work as a freelance audio designer doing stuff for online casino games, and worked for Jimmy Walker, the comedian, hit TV show Good Times from the 80s. And since then, I have created my own interactive game studio focusing on social and mobile games in Austin, Texas. I do the audio and game design.
It's great. Thank you. So just to run it down again, you guys both graduated in 09. Oh, I'm sorry.
08.
08?
09.
09.
09, 10.
09, 10.
Yeah.
And
11.
Last year, 11.
Yeah.
11 for you. So, I guess what I'm trying to get from all of you guys is what your initial path was when, and we'll go down the, kind of around the horn one more time. Maybe we'll start with Monty this time. When you were here, what were you involved with? Even those things that didn't turn out to be particularly fruitful for you. Like what was your path? What did you do that led you into ultimately what you do now while you were here?
All right. Do you mind if I take a sip of this General water right here?
I'm okay with it.
Well, I think everything was fruitful, actually, to be honest. I did the recording studio. It got me to learn about audio in general and plugins and working in a DAW, which is very useful for game audio design, having to create the sounds. The radio station taught me about online digital distribution since it's an internet radio station. Also taught me how to use the cell phone correctly for microphones. I actually did the video stuff here, which taught me how to do trailer editing. And I think everything was fruitful, even the philosophy and the religion classes. There's a quote Steve Jobs said. He took a calligraphy class, and that taught him how to make fonts on the Mac. So I think everything, if you just think about it for a while, is fruitful in the long run.
Right, great. Well, thank you for being a great advertisement for the university. That's exactly right. Well, that is, it is true that
check to Monty Goulet.
that a tremendous amount of the appeal to the program and to this an education here is the that common curriculum emphasis on the humanities and on being a well-rounded person and citizen. So yeah, I totally take your point. Alex, what did you do that kind of led you into production when you were here? What kind of activities did you engage in?
I originally just volunteered to work at some festivals around town. Got a few gigs getting paid every now and then, and took whatever job I could, and it kind of just led to bigger and better things. I helped book Forum back in the day. Wasn't as good as it is now, but definitely met some good people and had a lot of contacts and interned as much as I could, and
Right.
That was it.
While I got you, how big a part of, I have a couple of close friends in production who've sort of got a few more years behind them than you do. And they've always talked about the fact that the best way to get into production is to basically volunteer to do anything. Push
Yeah.
cases for free, punch tickets,
Yes.
work the gate, work backstage, anything you can do for free. You want to speak a little bit about just sort of, as much as we all know internships form a huge part of how we get into things. Mm-hmm. In production, don't you think it's a little bit more so the idea that you can get involved and really get involved just by being the person who shows up?
Of course, festival production is a really tight-knit family. It's really small, and you start to see the same faces at each festival that you go to, and it's the same people. And they're not necessarily doing the same role at each festival, but they somehow got their hands, in production. I think my first time I worked at Voodoo, I worked Will Call, which was awful. And,
You get a lot of, don't you know who I am?
Yeah, and
I
a lot of.
do too have tickets?
Yeah, there was a lot of radio ticket winners, and they were just mean. And, they were like, I should have these tickets, and I should have VIP, and, would get in your face. And I'm like, I'm just volunteering. And after that, I just.
But there's value in that, right?
Yeah.
That's trial by fire. That's the whole, sink or swim, figure it out, do what you got to do.
You definitely learn patience.
Do your job.
Yeah, working there. So, but you start to meet people in this festival family, and they see that you are showing up, and you're on time, and you're hustling, and you'll do whatever. You'll be a runner, and, go and do myriad tasks of just, oh, go run and get this case of water and this beer and clean this, and you're fine doing that, and I did all that. And there's still some times where I'm like, sure, I'll go do it, just to, I don't know.
Well, because
Bring
you
it back
want to be
there.
the person who just does it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
getting
absolutely.
things done, right?
There's no complaining
Yeah.
at all.
And it's easy to maybe think that there's not a lot of meaning in that, but the meaning is in the big picture, right? The meaning is in making things happen.
It's true, all these little tasks, all add up to the festival, and I think my favorite part of it is when you are there, I just got done with Voodoo, so I'm talking about Voodoo specifically, but Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and you're looking at however many thousands of people watching this show, and you just kind of stand back and you're like, wow, I had a part in this, and even if it's down to people that are working in the parking lot, or people that are cleaning the festival grounds, all of these jobs matter. So yeah, I mean, you just got to be willing to go there and do it. I mean, my first internship was Summer Stage in New York, and they put me in marketing, which I knew nothing about marketing, and I was like, sure, I'll do the internship. And then the merch guy quit the second day in, and they're like, can you do merch? And I was like, no. And I just said yes, and I lied, and I got the gig. And, you just learn as you go along. So even if you don't know how to do something 100% of the way, just get in and do it.
I mean, how many times do you guys hear, just sitting in those seats, like just being the person who says yes, who just figures it out, who shows up when no one else shows up or when someone else didn't show up? I mean, it's a huge thing. I just had the conversation with a couple of students in my office before we came over here, saying that you can distinguish yourself by being the person who always shows up. Mike, you want to talk a little bit about your path and what you did here, and a little how you feel about that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. And I work a couple production gigs as well, and she's absolutely right with all that. The best advice I was given when I was still here, a guy in town, he's a great person to know if you don't know him, Adam Shipley, told me, Mike, if you actually do what you say you're going to do, you are 90% ahead of the game in this town. All it takes is just doing what you say you're going to do and be there when you say you're going to be there and be dependable and get the job done. It speaks volumes, especially in the production world. I do, the venue stuff and whatever. I also do some voodoo and jazz fest and those things. And when I ended up it went from working with artist relations to stage managing, just because, hey, now we need someone, and we know last time you were here, you were really reliable and you got what you had to get done. And all that production work, so much of it just depends on like putting out fires and just getting things done and being there.
Well said. Dan?
Well, actually, kind of going back to what Monty said, there's just so many things that at the time when I was, young at Loyola, and I was frustrated because I would volunteer for things, and it's like, I would think of that as networking and think that, okay, well, I volunteered for this job, now what? Now nothing. But Monty talks about every single experience being something you learn from. And I slowly realized as I became a more patient person that it's the experiences where you volunteer for something, you volunteer to hand out flyers, because every single one of you needs to know how to hand out flyers well. There's an art to handing out flyers, and you have to go learn how to do it. You have to learn how to get shut down by people. You have to learn how to deal with people yelling at you, ripping your stuff in half. With ticketing, it would be easy to say I'm going to put on a concert and run the door myself until you have a person show up who wants to get the ticket that a radio station that you never heard of says that they've won. And it's easy to go, oh, well, it would just take 2 minutes. You deal with them. But it doesn't take 2 minutes. It takes 20 minutes, and you have to deal with these people constantly. And the only way that you guys will become an asset in the industry is just by going out there and learning these things. It's the experience, and it's frustrating sometimes because, you want that big opportunity, but for 90% of us, that big opportunity is not going to be handed to you, and a lot of the times, that big opportunity comes to you, and it's after you've already accepted it that you even realize how big of an opportunity it was. I'm trying to think of, here's an example. When we were doing Electronic Takeover, kind of when we first started doing it, we moved over to Ampersand, and kind of a secondary thought was, hey, does anybody run your guys' social media? And it was like, no. So they paid me a couple $100 a month or something like that to run the Facebook and Twitter, which didn't really seem like much. But before I realized that I was taking on more and more responsibilities, and something that I looked at is the same opportunity that I've been given a million different times by, venues or people that let me put on a show or get involved with their band or something like that finally turned into something really fruitful. So, like the biggest thing that I probably take from my college experience is that every opportunity matters. I learn more from my failures than I learn from I've never learned anything from my success. From my success, I'm like, great, but something must have gone wrong that I can learn from here, So, really, every experience that you guys have sitting in here today, I can't tell you how many forums seemed like a waste of time. I did an internship that I thought was a complete waste of time at a production company. I didn't realize for years that I just wasn't operating at the level that they were operating at. And now I look at the production schedule they use, the marketing schedule. I look at, I take a lot of lessons from things that I did not even realize were, valuable at the time. So I guess keep your head up because it's definitely all worth it as long as you just keep chugging along.
Great, thank you. Monty, I should say to all of you guys, if something one of you says stimulates a comment, please just this is like a panel discussion. Say whatever occurs to you, but I'll be probing with a question here and there. But if something occurs to you of value, just please interrupt and let's let a conversation happen instead. Monty, you were really involved with the radio station, as you said, with Vital Sounds. You want to talk a little bit about how some of that experience helped you in your professional career?
Absolutely. Well, you keep bringing up 90%. Woody Allen had a quote, 90% of success is showing up. And their story with the recording studio was Jay was looking for a new president. And this was about 2 days before the semester was over and everyone was going home for summer. I shoot him a note, are you still looking? He says yes. I fill out the application, bam, I'm the president. So no experience whatsoever. I had to figure it out on the job. So I learned all the management, I learned recording techniques, I learned it all. And I was only a sophomore as president of the recording studio. And the radio station was, it had just been reborn as the internet radio station my first year here. And they were looking for DJs. I signed up as DJ doing a show called Music of the Gamer, which I'm still doing now as an internet podcast. I learned how to do essentially all the stuff you need to do an internet radio station inside of a small laptop. And then I became chief engineer of it as I learned how it went. And I think those experiences helped me get my first gig at Nintendo, which was also a 90% of showing up. I sent an email to the audio lead, or a letter to the audio lead saying, hey, I'm a student at Loyola. I'm looking for my first big break into the video game industry. I just want to talk to you and get to know you. A few months go by, I don't hear back. I send a few different notes to everybody else. I get 2 notes back. The Retro Studios Nintendo head goes, hey, you in town for lunch? I go, yeah, I can be home for lunch. So I go fly home back to Austin, meet the guy, and essentially, bibbidi-bobbidi-boo, I get the job the next day.
Yeah, I remember that. You were in my marketing class when you got that job.
Yeah.
I remember.
And it really was all the experiences that I got from the recording studio and all the other experiences here that I think really helped me land that job.
Now, you did bring up something that maybe not everybody does, which is sending out some email, asking questions, making known that which you want.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of how much, maybe everybody can talk a little bit about how much A, knowing what you want, and B, communicating what you want is a part of what it is you do.
Well, Alex was saying that, she does everything for Voodoo Fest. She went out and did everything. If you really go out and do everything, you're getting yourself out there and being seen. So I went out and did everything. You shoot the letters, let people know who you are. I mean, you're a college student. Nobody in the professional world really knows who you are unless you go out and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm doing the same thing you do at school. I'm learning what you do. Can I talk to you? That's really all you need to do. I think it's not really about the fishing for the job. It's getting the conversation going, which then they'll figure out, this guy doesn't seem so bad. Maybe I'll give him a shot.
Well, I see Dan nodding vigorously. It's not about fishing for the job, I think, is what made you start to nod because, and it doesn't surprise me because you work in social media a lot, right? And so as someone who's a social media professional, I would imagine you're used to that process. You got to be valuable before you can ask for something valuable. You've got to make people like you before you can sell them something, right? I mean, there's a little bit of quid pro quo there. Is that what you were agreeing with? You want to talk a little bit about that?
If you've got a Facebook page with 5 fans, posting a million times isn't going to do anything. I mean, it's a back and forth. Keeping that conversation going, and sometimes it frustrates me when we talk about the idea of networking all the time because it seems like it's such like an academic thing, but it's not. It's just it's human. you just talk to people, and it's not a big thing. It's a small thing. You send an email. And it's, I guess maybe for me at least, it seemed really frustrating at times because I would have all these ideas in my head, and it seems like I was doing all these things, and at times I'd be like, well, you know what, these are all just ideas, and I really haven't done anything yet. And it's, you send 1 or 2 emails, and you get a response on 1 or 2 of them, and I mean, that makes a huge difference. You talk to people. It's, you don't necessarily have to want something from somebody, and if you do want something from somebody, then be prepared to give something back to them, I mean, and that's fair. That's just how it works. And those conversations turn into that farther down the line a lot of the times. Saying to somebody, I'm just interested in this will turn into opportunities a lot of times. But yeah, you got to go out there and do it.
You
start those
don't go out and just
conversations.
say, I need your business card. I want a job. That doesn't work that way.
Right. Mike, how about you? You want to speak a little bit about knowing, kind of expressing that which you want?
Well, absolutely. Well, I'm going to kind of go back on that a little bit.
By all means.
When we were saying before, things that you were doing in school, I had no idea what I wanted to do in school. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to go through the music industry program and get a job working for an agency or working production, whatever. I did and talked to everybody, and it kind of worked itself out. So I think the communicating, in a certain way, you can kind of find what you're best at by doing that, and the best way to do that is to get out of the classroom and do something, whether it's volunteer, intern, or whatever it is. If you're out there working in it and doing it, you can kind of hone what it is you're actually really good at and not just what you think is cool.
While we're on that subject, you started Chicken and Egg, and then you went into production, and now you're managing Flow Tribe, right?
Yes.
I would imagine that progression has a story behind it.
It does.
And that it has. So you want to speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I have a really short attention span, which I'm sure a lot of you do as well. I've just kind of been all over the place with different things, but in the whole progression of the different venue stuff, when I first started doing Britannia stuff, Flow Tribe did a couple of gigs. We got to talking, and I never really put a lot of thought into management, and started talking to those guys and saw that they had a need for it, and I really liked them, and just went from there with it.
What was it that you thought? I guess what I want to know, as a manager, what is it that seems to have pulled you into management? It's not something that just happens. I find among other managers, most managers want 2 things. They want to help, and they want to make sure the music is shared by other people.
Absolutely.
So, we talk about passion and tenacity being such a huge part of management. What got you enmeshed in their lives?
Just meeting those guys and believing in them. And I've worked with other bands. I've done stuff with other bands, but this is really, after a while of like trial and error with other people, I just decided, I'm sticking to just these guys for now. If you're in a band right now, don't think that getting a manager is your answer to like success. And as a manager, don't think, oh, I take on a band and now I'm just managing someone, and I'm, you really got to believe in what it is that you're working with and who you're working for. And if you don't believe in it, you don't have a passion for that project, and you don't connect to it, if you can't connect to it, then just forget about it, because you're never going to do well with it.
Exactly. Yeah. Great point. Alex, you want to speak a little bit about making your desires known?
Yeah.
And kind of finding your way into the things you want to do.
I was going to touch back to what Mike just said, just to be passionate about what you're doing. Festivals is, what I love to do. I really can't imagine myself doing anything else, to the point where, I was picking up trash the last day of Voodoo because I love being in City Park and I love working for Voodoo, and I'm just passionate about it, and I don't want to do anything else.
Right.
There's nothing else on my radar that remotely comes
And you
close
want
to
do a great
festivals.
job.
Yeah.
You don't just
No,
want
absolutely.
to be there and do the job
Yeah.
and say you have a job. You want to do a great job.
Yeah, for sure. So if you have that about anything, and maybe it's not music. Maybe when you get out of college, you'll realize that, maybe I just wasn't meant to be in this business. Then don't do it. Do something that you're passionate about and that you love. I hope all of you, stay in the music business. Festival families do need to grow, so we would love to have, some of you if you're interested.
And there's a lot of turnover.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in our
Yeah.
entire business, there's a lot of turnover,
Yeah.
but certainly in production and
Yeah,
festival world.
and I'm an independent contractor, so I'm not necessarily just hired by, I'm not just full-time with, with one company. I can bounce to whatever gig that I want to go to. And that's especially where there's a lot of turnover,
Yeah.
and it's hard. You kind of give up some friends and family when a festival's going on. Your life is just in this tiny festival bubble. And,
That's actually a great thing to talk about. Could we once again just sort of each of you address the costs associated with the path you chose? Talk a little bit about what look, nothing comes without some cost. Nothing comes without, whether it's an opportunity cost or whether it's whether it's a cost to your personal life. Whatever it is, speak a little bit about the costs involved, what you give up to get what you get.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
All right. Well, right now I'm the creative lead of my own independent game studio, as I mentioned earlier, which I financially founded. So that's one hardship myself, that I had to fund the whole entrepreneurial experience. Another is time. You're building your own company. That takes a lot of time. I mean, Zuckerberg didn't build Facebook in a day. He built it over the course of a weekend on a Harvard binge. So, I mean, you think about it that way, it takes a lot of time commitment. But the thing I put aside was, sound design for a game studio, the big guys are going to still be there. Blizzard's not going anywhere. World of Warcraft's, 10 years old? I mean, the big guys aren't going anywhere. I can build this now. So I figured I should go and build this now. I mean, that's really the hardship, is deciding the time cost for me, and also the financial cost, since it's a startup business, of the secure paycheck and the not so secure paycheck, which I think we're also all facing with the venue as well.
And how did you fund the startup? Did you bootstrap the startup? Did you go for, did you use the salary you earned doing your other design work, your audio design work?
Well, there's a couple of ways I funded this. The first was, it is bootstrapped. We're doing royalty salaries for the employees for different game sales. We're also doing, I mentioned I worked for Jimmy Walker, which was an interesting story. Back when MySpace, that's before Facebook, he needed a MySpace page. So I built a relationship with him. He wanted an app now. There's this iPhone thing. He goes, I need one of those newfangled apps. So I built him one of those. I got paid for a royalty split on that. I pretty much get about 70% of what is remaining from after Apple takes its cut. So it's a pretty good sum of money from that. But the real kicker is Loyola really does a nice job with the scholarship package for funding for the schools. And I made a wager with my father on this. And whatever money I got in scholarship, he would give me. So I got pretty much a free ride to Loyola. As you know, it's a private school. It's very expensive. And I use that money now to fund the enterprise.
That's great. Good planning.
Yeah, very good planning right there, right?
The Mitt Romney approach.
But I pay the taxes. I pay the taxes, Billy.
All of you just ask your dad. That's great. So, all right, well.
I don't outsource to China, though.
Good on you. That's great. Dan, you want to speak a little bit about what the costs, the costs that you incur when you go into when you make your choice?
How many times have I broken up with my girlfriend and gotten back together with her in the past year? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
But that's. I mean, it's funny you mention that, because that's something that I really had to address for the first time this summer. Some of you guys know Matt Bowerschmidt. He manages G-Eazy. Matt and I lived together for like 2.5 years, and then we worked together for a couple years at Amps, and he still helps us out. But he left on tour probably in the middle of this summer, and all of a sudden, like, all the work that I was used to doing with Matt, by my side every day, is just one day I was just doing twice the work. And that was, it was exciting for me, because it was, a big chance to show, if I could step up to the challenge. But at the same time, it was the first time in my life where I was like, oh my God, it's not like, what do I do at this time? It's like, what do I decide between? I really don't have enough time in the day. And it's like, I have my friends, and like, I want to get off work and see my friends, and then, you want to see your girlfriend maybe like separately, or you want to go eat dinner, or you want to chill for a little while, or you want to watch a movie, or you want to get high, or do whatever you do that most of you guys do. But it really did hit a point where it took a huge toll on my life, and I went from being in the office a couple days a week to being in the office 7 days a week. I mean, it's not hourly. It's like, nobody works hourly in this business. If you're serious about it, you're going to put in 80 hours a week if you're serious about what you're going to do. And maybe it won't be like that forever, or maybe it will, and you'll learn to adjust. But for me,
you also find your level. I mean, you can't go on that way forever.
Right.
You're going to be forced to organize yourself and make choices.
Right. So, I mean, for me, it just really had to do with making some choices in my own life. I had to start getting up earlier. I had to start, really planning out my weeks a little bit more. And all that was scary and really, really stressful.
You never had me for a teacher when you were here, right?
I don't think so, but I was always hanging out,
Yeah.
bugging you.
See, if you'd had me.
I don't know if there's anybody that could have taught me, but
No.
myself, But that's the truth.
Exactly.
You hit a point in your life, and a lot of you guys are already there. I mean, I guess I was kind of lucky that I was able to build up my skills, and it took me to the age of 25 or 26 to be at that point where I was so busy. But boy, I'm managing that time. If you can't do it, it'll destroy your life. But once you do it, it is incredibly empowering. It's like working out for the first time. It's like you go force yourself to run, and you're like, this sucks. I can't believe I'm doing this. And there's no way I'm going to keep doing it. But you do it in a couple days, and all of a sudden, after like a week or two, you feel better about yourself, and it's easier to do, and you've created good habits. So I guess it's kind of a natural thing, as long as you can give yourself a little bit of time to chill every once in a while.
Well, Mike, you want to speak a little bit about costs and maybe, I don't know if this occurs to you, but how do you manage productivity? How do you not run yourself into the ground? How do you not just work every hour of the available day?
That's a good question. I end up making my girlfriend mad a lot. I try to set time aside for some personal things here and there, but in this business, and especially if you got your fingers in a bunch of different things, it's never going to stop.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that that's always the problem,
Right.
but you got to find your way around that problem. You too, because the issue is you will burn out. It will at some point become an issue of entropy, and you'll wind out, and you'll lose. The energy has to be a tight spiral. And when it's not, it winds out, and you end up becoming less and less interested. And that's the challenge, I think, in being in business for yourself. I certainly know pre-email and cell phones, I used to be in the office running management stuff, like never stopping checking the fax machine. I mean, that's a thing you don't know about. But I was on the phone all the time. I was in front of the fax machine all the time. I was getting letters out all the time. And then when email and cell phones happened, I lost my life. I mean, I completely ran my life into the ground. And it was then that I became a convert to productivity tools, understanding time management, understanding how to prioritize, how to set tasks. And I think that's a big part of what being a good production person is, let alone being what a good manager is. And, Alex, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm definitely an organized person. I have a list. I know what I'm doing for the day. But the amazing thing about working for yourself is that I'm not working the next month because I'm choosing not to. I'm taking time for myself to cook and, I don't know, go travel or make Christmas presents or decorate a tree or whatever I want to do. You have to take some time for yourself. And for me, I love food, so that's where I focus my other time, but someone might like something else. And you have to take that time or you'll go insane. I lose, all bit of my personal life when it comes to a festival. I don't talk to family, I don't talk to friends. There's like a month window of, where I just lose touch with people. And then this is the time where I kind of rebuild those relationships. And it's nice. It's like this little healing process after this terrible, last 4 or 5 weeks of your life. And
Yeah.
And there's no festivals happening in December, really. So this is a nice time
There's
for
a
me
lull,
to, yeah.
a natural flow.
Yeah.
And it's good. I mean, there
You
is,
need that.
by definition, festival production, touring, it's always on an always on kind of thing. I mean, you can carve out your little piece of the day where you do something nice,
Yeah.
But it's an always on thing, and you do have to figure out how to recharge, even if you are
Yeah.
young.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You
Yeah.
still need to figure out how to get yourself some kind of energy level back, which is really important. Just on to what you guys are doing now, Mike. I know that you're in the process of opening a venue. This again is something that a huge number of our students are interested in. I say they all, but many of them want to be involved in festivals. Many of them want to be involved in live music. And for them, a venue seems like a natural thing to do. What the hell made you do this?
Well,
And what do you do? Tell us what you do.
What I'm doing right now is, I mean, day in and day out, it could be City Hall for a few hours during the day. It could be on the job site pouring concrete.
Tell
variety of
us what
things,
you're
but-
doing, though. You will bring us up to speed. Like you're in the process of opening a brand new venue on
Right.
Ferret Street.
Right. And it came about, and I think you kind of made me think about it just now. I was just really tired of working for other people. I mean, when I was general manager at Britannia as well as a talent buyer, and then when I did The Wolf, I was on salary there, working as a manager and talent buyer there, and I did their books, and I saw the numbers, and I was like, this should be mine. This salary and these hours suck. And, you know, I'm going to make my own hours and my own salary. And I just kind of kept bumbling around looking for the opportunity and found it.
Yeah.
And once I found it, it was hard to jump from having a salary to not. You know, and I've made it by doing more Flow Tribe stuff.
Right.
I went on the road with them a few times, did some tour managing.
So do you have
and
outside funding for the launch?
Yeah, I went and found some investors, which is part luck, part persistence.
Yeah, maybe you could talk just a little bit about that process. I mean, a lot of the people here have never had to raise money, have never had to convince someone else of the value of their idea. How'd you raise money?
Through someone I previously knew, I had already known and had a relationship with, and so that person saw what I was capable of and the value that I have as an individual and a professional, and was willing to take a chance on that. And
Right.
that is a little luck to be able to know someone with the means to make that happen. But you know, if you put yourself out there right, the right person might see it.
But you raised capital in their eyes by, you raised your own value in their eyes by doing the stuff you did for
Right.
the first few years.
Right, the things I did
how
for the
much of
first few
that-
years, I had no idea that would have a role in
Yeah.
getting the funds I need to make
Right.
what
It was enough to impress the person and say, this guy means what he says, he does what he says, he shows up when he says he's going to show up. You became that guy,
Right.
which is really important. How about you, Dan? What's going on right now? What are you facing?
So basically, I mean, I kind of divide what I do day to day into a couple different projects, and I have lists for each project. So like the Neon Glow Paint Party, we're trying to take that on our biggest tour. I mean, we want to hit like 15 cities this spring. I mean, that's kind of our cash cow. That's like between a $25 and a $40 ticket, and anywhere between 600 and 1,300 people coming to
And
the show.
are you an owner? Are you a part owner?
No, I'm not.
So,
That's owned by Ampersand. Everything I do currently is under the Ampersand umbrella.
Right.
So for that.
So you took a step back from entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's
toward-
actually.
So that's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge decision for me. I mean, even a year ago, I was still planning on having marketing clients, people that I did social media for, but it just became, it got to a point where it's like, I felt like I was actually like hurting my professional life by spending too much time on some of my other projects, and I started really liking what I was doing. And you talked about being in the office all the day, checking stuff. A big part of that when you become more busy is delegating to other people, or delegating, when you can.
Right.
So for me, it was kind of like, well, shoot, if I'm going to stick with Ampersand, then I need to take some of the things that I do not like about this job and figure out how I can either make them easier for myself or hand them off to somebody, and really focus on the things that I both enjoy and that I'm good at. So now, day to day, I'm going through cities and contacting venues for the tour in March. We're putting together the lineup for Zulu, which we do over 4 days every year during Mardi Gras. I am reorganizing the format of our street team, which is something that I do every month. But it's interesting. I mean, it's a constant process. I do flyer inventory. That's a day-to-day thing, even on the small level. Checking in with, our contractors, our lighting people, because we have to do a whole new production and lighting design setup for the Neon Glow tour. And then, long term, there's, something that I really enjoy is talking about long-term plans of the business. It makes me feel like I'm valuable to them, and it proves that I am. I mean, those are the conversations that are really great, and when you work with an organization for long enough to be able to sit down and go, what do we want to do at this company? I mean, that's really, that really feels good to be included in those conversations. But yeah,
Do you also feel that these things that you're doing are resulting or creating in you a skill set that's going to be leveraged by you in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at this point, between the stuff that I do at Ampersand and the stuff that I did at Loyola, I mean, at Loyola I was on the school newspaper, and now I know how to buy newspaper ads because I was on the other end of it. And then at Ampersand, it's like, artist relations. That's just something, you're there, you learn it. Production, you're there, you learn it. I mean, I feel pretty confident in photo, video, booking, venue management, marketing. I mean, there's only a couple things that I really don't feel confident in now. I mean, like, opening a venue is not something that I want to do, or manage a bar is not something that I want to do. But luckily, I have enough skills now that I feel like I could go into a job at like a really, what do you call this place where you button up your shirt, like a
like a corporate?
Yeah, like
corporate environment,
like a corporate marketing company or something like that.
Those places where you button up your shirt.
I mean, it's it's funny though, but I was talking about learning from every little experience, and you're going to go out there into the world, and you're going to feel really, really good if you have a skill set that if you know what you're good at. Mike talked about having to talk to people to figure out what you're good at, but so many people make the mistake of getting a business card where they're in college that says photographer on it or something like that, and it's like, no, you're so much more than that. It's like you may not be fully developed as any of these things, but it's like, no, learn your skills, work on them all, and then when you feel like something's really valuable to you, then start focusing on that.
And I think a lot of people talk about do the thing you're passionate about, and that creates a lot of anxiety in people, not just your age, but like into their 20s and into their 30s. And believe me, older than that, people are just thinking, how do I not know what I'm passionate about? Well, it's also just a matter of following your nose to a certain extent. Monty, I mean, you've certainly followed your nose. You did find what you were passionate about. And I wouldn't mind you talking a little bit about what you are doing now. What is,
Sure.
what is music? I'm sorry, what is it? What is the term for what you do? Music?
What? Which term? Sound design.
Well, is it sound design though?
It's sound design and game design.
If it's sound design, why isn't it called? There's something. There's a word here. No, the thing.
There's a thing now?
An audio implementor.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what that is.
That's one of my roles. I'm the audio director and creative lead, so I create the games, and I also have to do the sound design. So I'm very passionate about the audio sound design aspect of games. I mean, George Lucas said 50% of a movie is sound. Right. I believe that's true in games as well. If the game sounds good, it probably will play good. Right. If it looks good, it'll play good, but it's really the key component of meshing the two together. So an audio implementer is essentially the guy who puts in the sound. So Hitchcock did a movie called Lifeboat, which was on a boat, and he said, I want no music in this movie whatsoever. He goes to the music guy, he goes, because how's there music on a boat? It's in the ocean. And the music guy goes, how is there a camera filming the boat? And I won't put the music in if you can tell me how that happens. Okay. So, I mean, if you think about it, audio implementation is putting the music in the right spot. So Vital Sounds actually helps with that. So if you have a bass player and he needs to redo a track and it has to be in sync with everything that was previously recorded, audio implementation is the same exact role. I'm putting in, let's say a guy is walking and his footsteps have to be in sync with the animation. So it has to be perfectly in sync or else people are going to think, well, this game is messed up. Right. So that's one of my roles. But our company, Maestro Interactive, just released our first successful title, Maestro Mini Golf. Turns out people love mini golf, Billy, on a phone.
Good choice.
Very good choice, I think. Sports games apparently are in, but not birds. So we're doing this thing called asynchronous gaming. How many of you guys have phones and play like Words with Friends? All right, a lot of you guys, okay. That's basically asynchronous gaming, where if I'm playing and I get a word, Billy, you can take like 20 minutes or a year because you don't want to play with me and, never play the word, or you could play the word, and that's asynchronous. We're not playing in sync. I see. And we're doing that with our new game for audio design aspects. So we're doing these games where I'm playing the game and you're playing the game at the same time, or not at the same time. And we're doing that, and we're doing it very heavily on the audio design rather than, say, the graphics.
Interesting. That's great. I think I'd like to be able to allow for questions. I would imagine you guys might have some questions for these people. They're very approachable. They are doing the stuff that you hope to do. And I'd like to give you the chance to ask. Anybody, questions? There, got one right here.
I'd love
Hello.
to point out.
I have a question for Monty.
Yes. Where are you? I can't
I'm
see.
right here.
Oh, okay.
What sort of computer programming did you have to get into to get to where you are?
Right, so what language do you write?
We write in C#, which is the game engine's language. Unity is the game engine we use, but there's not really that much coding involved. It's very much a graphic user interface based. So, like Pro Tools has a lot of scripting in the back end, but no one ever sees it. So you're just recording, and there's a whole bunch of code going on in the back. But that's what we're using is C#.
And is that something that you learned while you were in Loyola?
Yes and no, but I learned it on my own at Loyola. I was really looking for a program that did, both music and computers at the same time, and the music tech program at this really fit. I mean, I met Worthington. You guys probably don't know who he is, but he was one of the professors here at the time who lives in Austin and worked on QuickTime. So I was like, wow, he's here, so maybe this school is legit. So, and it turns out it was very, very legitimate, and I'm very happy with it. But thanks again. You can write the check to me again.
Wow, glad that worked out.
Yeah, so I learned it here as well.
It's embarrassing to get a bad review right now.
There's no bad review.
Yeah, no, it's good. We did great.
I hope that answers the question.
Questions? Anybody else with question? All right. Well, listen. We're at the end of. We're wrapping it up here.
Steph had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Steph. I'm so sorry. I didn't see you. Pass it down.
Hey, I have a question for Mike and Dan. Hi guys. I know that you both work in venues and have done that and worked to the bar scene. And Dan, you said that you're not in the mood to ever open your own bar, manage one, or something like that.
Well, that's not quite true.
Well, something obviously isn't making you want to open one. And I know that Mike is super into it. So, is it the experience that you had before that kind of either ruined it or made it for you, or is it just something about your vision, or what made it and what didn't?
Well, how about I talk about why I didn't want to open a venue, and then you talk. All right, go for it. For me, the idea of opening a venue when I currently work for a company that runs a venue, I think of all the people that work at the venue, and when I look at Mike, I think of all of those people inside of Mike doing that one job. So I just don't think I envy the stressful level of running into walls with City Hall and stuff like that. But there's certainly a part of me that's if I was able to, walk away or, put some money together, I mean, yeah, of course, I would love to do a venue, the right way that I want to do it, but maybe a couple years down the line.
Yeah, I, by the way, had no idea I would be doing this now. Complete right place, right time. I mean, everybody says things like that, and I put myself out there to make it happen, but I thought I'd be doing a lot more prior to opening a venue of my own. And it was just, I'm sure just like many of you, it was a dream, something to do that I really wanted to do. And when I start things, I refuse to not finish. So it happened, and I was like, I remember the day I woke up after we signed some paperwork to make things official, and I was just like, whoa, I'm 24 and I just did that. What did I just do?
But you kind of hit on something that I think is a recurring theme in this program, which is that passion and tenacity are the two most important things you can bring to whatever you're doing. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, to be consumed with the passion of it, but also to be relentless and hardworking and just tenacious,
Right, absolutely.
That's what the country was founded on, Billy. So it must be right.
Here,
We're still here.
USA. Please, I know you guys are getting ready to split because it's going on 6 o'clock, but before you do, I want you to join me in thanking these 4 people for being here.